This is going to be a really exciting class, mainly because the Bruins just seem to be getting the players that they need at this point. There's a lot of depth issues at certain position groups, and not only have has Jim Mora and company solidified, locked down several different players at different positions. I mean, for one thing, for example, they have two quarterbacks committed in this class. First off, that's really good depth for Josh Rosen going forward. With that means that he could probably do uh, a lot more than he did this year. Although Josh Rosen had a pretty outstanding freshman year, but at the same time, it's good. It's interesting how UCLA is recruiting specifically because the former offensive coordinator Noel Mazzoni, excuse me, is now with Texas A&M. They promoted Kennedy Palomalu, and so now he's taken over. And Jim Mora said one of the things they want to do is start utilizing more tight ends and fullbacks. They don't have any tight ends on the roster right now. Their only tight end, Thomas Doherty, declared for the draft a couple weeks ago. So, and on top of that, they hired a tight ends coach. A little weird seeing you hire a coach for a position that has no players, but UCLA was targeting
I'll take that,
players. Yeah, Rip Shearer, that's who his name is, and but with recruiting, you're seeing that this the Bruins are going in the direction that they need to. They have a fullback, Jalen Starks, out of Crespi in Los Angeles. They have Jordan Wilson, a tight end. I believe he's from Tennessee. They might. They were in the hunt for Thaddeus Moss, Randy Moss's son, but he committed to North Carolina State earlier this week. And one of the big ones, he's uncommitted right now, but Devin Asiasi, he's a big time player that could be leaning towards the Bruins, but we'll see. Until they put their ink on that national letter of intent, who knows exactly what's going to happen. But for now, it's pretty exciting. The Bruins got a huge commit last week in J.J. Molson. I talked about UCLA got two quarterback commits. One of them, J.J. Molson, a four-star who used to be committed to Arizona, or is one of the Arizona schools. I'm pretty sure it's Arizona. Decommitted late December and is now heading to Westwood. So that's huge for the Bruins. One of the other things one of the other positions that they're loading up on is wide receiver. They have this kid Diamond Lee. Why am I blanking on his name? Theo Howard, who was an Oregon commit. That kid's a speedster, and that's something the Bruins need. Not only depth, but they never really had a guy that can just outrun the defense, and Theo Howard seems to be that guy. So things are looking up for the Bruins, even on special teams. They have the number 2 kicker, the number 2 punter, and the number 2 long snapper. And if you saw UCLA's special teams this year, that they need some improvement. So that's really good going forward. And some prospects, that the Bruins are leaning towards, or some prospects that are leaning towards the Bruins. One of the biggest ones is Mike Juarez, who was a USC commit, and he decommitted right around the time that the whole Steve Sarkisian drama was going on. So since then, he seems to be favoring UCLA, although he also has Ole Miss in his top 2. Another one is Boss Tagaloa, who is just big time, defensive lineman, and he seems to be a UCLA lean. So there are a couple guys that the Bruins are they might have a chance for. This might be one of the biggest national signing days for UCLA in the Jim Mora era, and that's saying something. Seeing, looking at the talent that they brought in, like last year they brought in Josh Rosen, to kind of bridge the gap from Brett Hundley. They get 2 more quarterbacks, so it's just little things like that are really helping UCLA's recruiting process, and hopefully will help them win a little bit more games, be a little bit more consistent next year.
Mike, you did say Rip Shearer, correct?
Yes.
It's the tight ends coach. He's the former head coach at Memphis for the Memphis Tigers.
Yeah.
Little note
he's been
I remember him losing every Mississippi State and Ole Miss when I was down there in the SEC.
Yeah, he was well before he got the tight end coach position. He was a administrative assistant, kind of like a right-hand man to Jim Mora on the administrative side. So, he has the experience. So if that's the direction you're going, you're going to need a coach. Why not? Let's see how it goes.
Now, we know that much goes into the decision for these kids in choosing a school, familiarity with maybe the locale, the coaching staff, the particular positions coach, the prospect of winning, the prospect of getting to the NFL. But when Thad Moss is thinking about going to NC State as opposed to going to UCLA and playing with Josh Rosen, throwing him the football, Jacoby Brissett has left North Carolina State, I'm not going to be too sure that they have anybody to replace Jacoby Brissett at that caliber that he wants to go play in the Belk Bowl every year at NC State. That, again, a lot goes into that, but it seems a little questionable on the surface.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's from North Carolina. It's tough for these kids to go across the country, and with UCLA, they've actually lost a lot of. Not a lot, a handful of players to homesickness. There was Chris Clark, the #1 tight end in the nation. He played one game and then went back east. Unfortunately, he transferred a couple different times. There was also a center, UCLA's center in waiting. I forget his name. Fred Ulu-Perry got homesick. He's transferring back to Hawaii. So it's it's unfortunate that stuff like that's happening. But you got to reload every year, and that's where the craziness and calamity and love of National Signing Day comes in.
Hey, Mike, before we let the Garnet and the Cardinal take over and make your life miserable here, who are those guys out there that if you're able to get them, right now they're listing maybe 3 or 4 schools and maybe UCLA's on the list. You don't have a real good read, but if they make that call to go to UCLA, that turns a really good class into maybe an even better class.
Yeah, I think right now in Scout, I believe they're ranked 13th. Rivals, I think it's 10th. So they're in good position right now. But if they can, somehow flip guys or convince guys like Jack Jones, who he's a 5-star athlete, I believe, who likely going to USC. But if somehow in the 12th hour, 11th hour, the Bruins can bring him to Westwood, that's going to be huge. Other players, who are some of the other guys that Darian Owens, actually he's a commit. There are several different players who it seems that UCLA, comparing them to USC, they're actually in the hunt. They're battling for these big-time recruits, and that's something that UCLA never got in the Carl Durrell or Rick Neuheisel era. So Jim Mora is doing something right. He's not going to get them all. We've in Bruin land have been a little bit disappointed in National Signing Day, but for the most part, we've gotten a lot of recruits who have been able to come in and from day one, and then other guys that take a little bit more time to develop, but for the most part, they're getting depth, they're getting some talent, so it's good. And right now, this class could be the biggest in Jim Mora's tenure at UCLA.